Hey, welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I am the Fat Guy. Most people call me Brett Mason, and I'm so happy that you have chosen to listen to the show today. I hope that I gave you some advice that helps you get a better handle on your weight loss and health journey. I assume that that's why most people are listening to the show, is to lose weight. However, eating right can help with a myriad of health problems and health concerns. So who knows why you're listening? No matter, glad you're here. Look, the best way to get the show is to download the Spreaker app. That is the company that I host my podcast with, so it makes it very convenient. And it's an awesome app. Not only can you get my podcast, you can get literally thousands and thousands of other podcasts right from that app. So no matter what you're interested in, whether it's sports or politics or planting flowers or, growing there's a podcast for literally anything you're interested in right there at your fingertips. So it's spelled like speaker, but it's got an R stuck in there. So it's Spreaker, Spreaker. It's a free app. You can download it. And once you download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast, follow the show, make it a favorite. You'll get notifications when a new episode comes out. Now, if you're somebody that already does the podcast thing and you use the Apple Podcast app or, something on Android, of course you can find us there as well. This just makes it easy for people who are maybe new to podcasting to download that Spreaker app, because it really is an awesome app. And I actually recommend it over the Apple, iOS app for podcasts and anything that I've seen on Android. That's just a personal opinion. Follow us on all the social media. If you want to ask me questions or you need some help, I try to help as much as I can. I do get a lot of questions. It's very fulfilling to me to try to answer them, but sometimes, depending on how busy the day is, it may take me a little while to get back to you, but hang in there. Fat Guy Podcast is what you're searching for, no matter whether you prefer Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or my favorite, Snapchat. Just look for Fat Guy Podcast. Now, Snapchat is where I share everything that I eat. When I'm doing fasting, I also share my experiences with fasting. So it's really a more up-close, personal, hands-on kind of thing on Snapchat. My second favorite and third favorite would be Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, I don't use that much. Nevertheless, I'm on all of them, Fat Guy Podcast. So let's jump right into it. So I've been asked this question a couple of times, and then I've also seen people that are asking me questions be very confused about the difference between a ketogenic diet and a low-carb diet, or what would commonly be known as the Atkins diet. Now, the Atkins diet, I remember, blew up in the 2000s, early 2000s. I was doing a morning show with Jerry Broadway, and I remember very clearly where he and I were like, man, we're going to do this low-carb thing. Atkins was all over TV. It was all in the news. It was all you could read was Atkins. And what's funny is that we thought it was new, but I think Atkins actually wrote his book in the 80s or something. It just had made a resurgence in the early 2000s. And I remember very clearly Hardee's jumped on that train by doing their low-carb burger. They were the first place anywhere around to embrace that. And Jerry and I were determined to go eat a low-carb burger. So we went to Hardee's, all excited about it, and we ordered it. And it was a burger wrapped in lettuce. And to me, that's fine now. I fully embrace low-carb, keto. I've wrapped so many things in lettuce and eat them, or I just eat them without anything. Just order the burger without the bun and just eat it with a knife and a fork. But at that time, it was such a bizarre concept. And I remember us sitting there trying to figure out what was appealing about eating this burger wrapped in lettuce. We did not enjoy it, as I recall. Now, granted, that was, 17 years ago. So my memory may be fuzzy on that. Nevertheless, Atkins works, and Atkins works for really basically the same reasons that a ketogenic diet works. Just a ketogenic diet goes a step further, and it's actually easier. So let's talk about an Atkins diet. An Atkins diet, same thing. I think they pretty much recommend low carb, 20 grams or less of carbohydrates a day. That's pretty much what most people advocate for keto. Some people do eat more than 20 grams of carbs a day. I've found that for most people, it's very difficult for them to stay in ketosis trying that, but some people can. I think it depends on how messed up your metabolism is. I think it depends on how insulin resistant you are. So if you're not very insulin resistant, I think you can get away with 30 carbs or 35 carbs a day or 40 carbs a day or whatever. But look, don't be optimistic and assume that, because what you'll wind up doing is wasting time. Let's say you spend 2 weeks eating 40 carbs and nothing happens. You don't enter ketosis. You get none of the benefits of keto. You've wasted 2 weeks and you've ate food that was new to you and you didn't love, and you went through all that hassle. Just embrace it and do the 20 carbs or less, okay? It's going to get you into ketosis a lot faster. It's going to get you through that awkward possible keto flu that'll last a few days unless you really prepare for it. And I have a podcast on keto flu and electrolytes. So if you're worried about keto flu, don't be, just because I mentioned it. You can totally prevent keto flu. You just need to know what to do with electrolytes. And there's another podcast on that. So again, another benefit of downloading the Spreaker app. You can just look at the Fat Guy Podcast show page, scroll down, find that episode, and listen to it just by tapping on your screen. So I would say that that's primarily where Atkins and keto start to depart. I don't think Atkins recommended that many vegetables. Now, look, don't quote me on that, because I'd have to go brush up on Atkins, but I think Atkins is less vegetable-centric than keto is. Keto, if you're doing keto right and healthy, you're eating a lot of vegetables, mainly greens, collard greens, mustard greens, things like that, and salads. Green leafy vegetables, some cruciferous vegetables maybe, which would be things like kale or whatever. Cabbage is one of those things. I see people saying cabbage is not keto, you should never eat it. And then I see people who are keto and eat a ton of cabbage. I think that's a thing where you have to eat it and see what it does to you. But nevertheless, vegetables have a low net carb. Like, a serving of broccoli or cauliflower or something, which is also ketogenic, by the way, may show that it has 5 or 6 grams of carbs, but it may have, and I'm just off the top of my head, I don't know the exact numbers, sadly. I should, as much as I look at them, but I don't. But it may show it has 5 or 6 or 7 carbs or something, but you'll see that 3 or 4 or 5 of it is fiber. And so it's whole food, plant-based fiber, so you can deduct it from the carbs. So just a raw example, if you have 7 carbs and 5 of them are fiber and it is a plant food, then you really only have 2 net carbs, because you subtract the fiber from the carbs. Now, you only do net carbs with plants, so don't get crazy. There's all kinds, especially Atkins products. Look, Atkins was brilliant. Do not buy Atkins products. I actually had a question about that today, and I think I'll do a whole podcast on it. But I'll throw this in there briefly. Atkins sells a lot of commercial crap to try to make more money. They use maltitol for a sweetener, which spikes insulin and blood sugar as much as regular sugar does. So don't eat the Atkins products. Nevertheless, so what's the difference between Atkins and keto? What's the difference? They're both low carb. They are both low carb. The difference is Atkins is a very high protein, moderate to high protein diet. Keto is a moderate to low protein diet and high fat. So why is that significant? Well, for a few reasons. Unless you're some kind of massive weightlifting behemoth trying to get ripped and huge muscle gains, you just don't need a ton of protein. You just don't. About I believe it's 1 gram or less really, maybe 0.8 grams for every kilogram of body weight or something like that. I'll tell you an easy way to figure it out is figure out what your lean body mass is. And if you don't know what that is, there's lean body mass calculators online. Just Google muscle mass calculator or lean body mass calculator. And you'll put in your age and your height and I think your weight, and it'll tell you about what your lean body mass is. So I'm still pretty heavy. I'm 285 now. I started at 407. I'm 285 now, but my lean body mass is really only about 160 or something. Okay? So it's very important for using a calculator to know how much protein to eat, because you want to use your protein, figure out how much protein to eat based on what your lean body mass is, not what your total weight is. So my lean body mass is around 160 or whatever, something like that. So you can go find that out using a calculator. It'll give you an estimate. May not be exactly right. It'll be close enough. Whatever it tells you, cut that in half and eat it. So for me, 160 pounds of lean body mass is about my estimate. So I eat about 80 grams, half that, not 80 pounds. It's half, but you change it to grams. So you half 160 and make it 80, and I eat about 80 grams of protein is my goal. Now, I may go up to 100. That's fine. 100 is still moderate, so it's not a huge problem. But I'd say for most people, your range is going to be, for smaller women, it could be as low as 70, 75 grams. Up to larger, more muscled men could be as much as 120 at the top end, but you're going to be eating somewhere between 70, 75 on the low end and 1 to 120 on the top end. I tell everybody to start at about where I am. Start around 80, see how you feel, see how it goes, see if you get into ketosis, see if you lose weight, blah, blah, blah. So whatever that is, whatever that number is, the way you figure out your fat is you just duplicate that number or make it higher. So if you're eating 80 grams of protein a day, so we already know 20, right? 20 is our maximum on carbs. Protein, we get our lean body mass, we figure it out, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying 80. So you take this 80, you eat 80 grams of protein. So for me, I also want to eat 80 or more grams of fat. That's how I round out my calories. So you want to keep protein about the same, really. Every day you want your protein to be about the same. It's kind of a hard goal. Now, it's not a super hard and fast goal like carbs are. Carbs are hard and fast, 20 or less. Protein, you want it to be hard with some flexibility, whatever your number is. So for me, I try to do around 80, but some days I do 90, and really some days I hit 100. I try to really never go below 80. You want 80 to be the floor. Whatever your number is, that needs to be the floor. So then you just take that and you just match fat to it or a little more. So a lot of days I have 80 grams of protein and I have 80 grams of fat. And that's a good day. Sometimes I have 80 grams of protein and I have 90 grams of fat or 95 grams of fat. That's fine. You just want it to be higher, and it really should be not a lot higher. It should be slightly higher. For me, 80 grams of protein and 100 grams of fat, 110 grams of fat. Yeah, that's pretty good. So fat is your sliding scale, though. Remember I talked about your carbs is locked in. It's 20 or less. That's hard and fast. You don't want to do more than 20 carbs a day. That's hard and fast. And you can do net carbs as long as your net carbs are coming from, plant products, vegetables, lean, greasy vegetables. And many people get confused on this, but no, a potato is not a green leafy vegetable. A carrot is not a green leafy vegetable. A turnip root is not a green leafy vegetable. If it grows below the ground, it's a storage vegetable, and it has tons of starch and carbs in it. So you don't eat those. But so your carbohydrates is a locked-in hard number. You hit that every day. Your fat is pretty much a locked-in hard number with a little bit of flexibility to go higher. But you don't want to go lower. You want to keep your floor. And then your fat is your sliding scale. So here's the big, I said all that to say this. Here's the big difference between Atkins and keto. Keto is all about the fat, and here's the benefits of fat. Especially when you first start a ketogenic diet, ramp that fat as high as you need it to feel satiated. Fat is the satiating macronutrient. What is a macronutrient? We have three of them. You have carbohydrates, you have protein, and you have fat, the things we've been talking about. Those are macronutrients. The fat macronutrient is the satiating macronutrient. That is the macronutrient that fills you up and keeps you from getting hungry. So, when you first start a ketogenic diet, what are you trying to do? You're trying to get your body to switch from burning carbs and to start burning fat, because it's not burning the fat on your body. That's why you're fat. If your body were working right, it'd be burning that fat. So we're trying to hack that. And we're shutting it out of carbs. We're saying you don't get any carbs. You got to burn fat if you want to survive. And your body wants to survive. And it has a perfectly normal biological mechanism for this. whereby it converts your fat into something called ketones, which powers nearly every cell in your body. There's very few cells in your body that can't run off ketones. So you're getting enough carbohydrates, and your body can actually make carbohydrates if it needs them. So you don't have to worry about it. Trust me, 20 is plenty. You can live on 0 carbs. Plenty of people do it. 0 carb diet. Plenty of people do it. Don't worry about it. Carbs are not essential. You don't have to eat carbs to live. You do have to eat protein to live, and you do have to eat fat to live. So that fat, you can play around with it. So I say to people, when you're starting a keto diet, the first week or two, man, if that fat gets high, that's good. As a matter of fact, if you find yourself eating hungry, go to fat. You know? You want to have fat on with every meal. So for breakfast, for example, if you're eating bacon and eggs, which is the world's most perfect ketogenic meal, is bacon and eggs. The fat, protein, carb ratio is amazing in that meal. But you always want to add in some fat. So I cook my eggs in grass-fed butter. And if you're going to eat butter, eat grass-fed. Matter of fact, any animal product, get grass-fed, okay? Grass-fed, grass-finished if you can find it, but at least grass-fed. So you're getting the fat from the bacon, you're getting the fat from the eggs, but then you're cooking your eggs in more fat, okay? Cook them in a couple tablespoons of grass-fed butter. And when you take the eggs out, I tilt the pan up and I pour what melted butter is left in that pan out over the top of the eggs, okay? Then the rest of the day, you want to be getting vegetables in with your protein, okay? So let's say that for lunch you have a steak with some asparagus and broccoli, okay? Asparagus and broccoli are vehicles for fat. That's what green leafy vegetables are. They are fat vehicles, so always think of them that way. Can steam. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb. Sorry about that. So you can steam your broccoli, you can steam your asparagus or whatever. So it doesn't have any fat on it, but when it comes out, you need to pour melted butter all over it. Or you need to dip it, very liberally dip it in butter, okay? The other thing that you can do, of course, is just saute it in a pan in butter. But you want 1 to 2 tablespoons of butter or fat. Could be coconut oil you could use, or secondarily olive oil. I prefer coconut oil, secondarily olive oil. Make sure it's extra virgin olive oil if you're going to use olive oil. So, same thing for dinner. Whatever vegetables you do, they are fat vehicles. They are vehicles to funnel fat into your body. So you need 1 to 2 tablespoons of some kind of fat that your vegetables are cooked in or that you dunk them in. So you keep that fat up there, okay? Well, you're like, well, how do I know all these grams, man? I don't know what grams is what. It's very easy. MyFitnessPal is the easiest app in the world to use, and it's free. Just download it, MyFitnessPal. And if you eat 2 eggs and 3 pieces of bacon for breakfast, put it in there. Put it in MyFitnessPal. And if you cook the eggs in butter, make sure you put that you used 2 tablespoons of butter. And you can even find the exact name brand of butter you use, the exact name brand of bacon you use, the exact name brand of eggs you use. So everything will be right. Look, MyFitnessPal isn't perfect. Sometimes the values are a little bit wrong because it's a lot of those entries are where people put them in. But it's close enough and accurate enough. And I just check. When I pull up, Horizon organic pasture-raised eggs, I see it on there. I pull it up and look at the macros and compare it to the package that's right in front of me. And if they match up, perfect. I keep using that. If I can't find one that matches up, you can enter your own food. You can go enter your own organic Horizon pasture-fed eggs and make it where only you can see it and add it, and you'll know it's perfect. But I'd say 99% of the time, the stuff on there is right. And if you don't worry about it too much, even when it's wrong, it won't be enough to affect you long term, okay? So just don't stress out about that too much. Just use it. You got to track it. And you'll look on there and it'll show you what your carbs are for today. And it'll show you what your dietary fiber was for today. And it'll show you what your fat was today. And it'll show you what your protein was today in grams. Now, MyFitnessPal is going to ask you to enter in how many calories you should eat every day or whatever. Don't worry about that. We're not tracking calories. We're tracking macros. To heck with the calories. We want 20 grams or less of carbs a day. We want protein in an amount that's suitable for our lean body mass. Go find you a calculator online, figure that out. Once you get those grams of protein, that's what you hit every day. And then you either match it or exceed it with fat. And you slide the fat up and down based on how satiated you feel. So let's say you've started the ketogenic diet and the first week, second day, you're hungry after you eat lunch, okay? When you have dinner, slide your fat up a little bit, and then the next day for lunch, have another tablespoon of fat. Work it in there some way and see if that gets you to dinner better. And you'll hit on it, and suddenly the next thing you know, within a week or two, maybe 3 for some people, everybody adapts at different speeds, but then within 2 to 3, 4 weeks, you're going to stop being hungry, and it's going to be amazing. And fat is what's going to do it. Fat is what's going to do it. And that is the big difference between Atkins and keto. On Atkins, you're eating low carb, high protein, and you'll be hungry a lot more. Now, you're hungry less on the Atkins than you are on the standard American diet because you're not eating all the carbs. And most of your hunger is coming from the carbs you eat. If you wonder why you're hungry all the time, it's because you're eating carbs. Carbs send an insulin spike. Once that insulin takes care of the carbs in your bloodstream, the insulin drops. And when that insulin drops, your body freaks out and makes you think you're hungry to eat more carbs. And it's a big roller coaster ride. And that's why you're hungry all the time. Once you remove carbs from the equation and you add the fat in for satiety, boy, you can go and just never be hungry. So I have podcasts up to talk about fasting. One of the reasons I'm able to fast so easily is because of the ketogenic diet. And you should definitely look at getting into fasting. But I'd say that a ketogenic diet is your first step. You'll want to almost immediately start implementing intermittent fasting. And I'm going to do a podcast all about that just by itself. And maybe that'll even be the next one I do. So look for that. So I won't get too much into intermittent fasting. But look, you can research it on your own. But start out with a 16-8 so that you don't eat within a 16-hour window and you confine all of your eating in a day to 8 hours. And the big thing I'd say with that is people think they can eat that entire 8 hours. Like start eating at 12 noon, eat a meal, then at 2 have a snack, and then at 4 eat something else, and then at 6 have another meal, and then at 8 have a snack. You eat within an 8 hour window, but you don't eat the entire 8 hours. Keep it to 2 meals. Okay? 2 meals and 1 snack max. Like say you start eating at noon and you stop eating at 8, you have a big meal at noon. At 4 o'clock you have a high fat ketogenic snack, which is basically a small meal. And then at 8 you eat again, or 7 you eat again, and then you're done. That's it. 2 to 3 times max you eat, okay? That's how you start out. And as you get more advanced, you can shrink that window to where it's a 6 hour eating window. Then you can shrink it to where it's a 4. Then you can even shrink it to where it's a 2. And you can get to where I'm at, where I just basically eat 1 time a day now. And so then when I decide to fast 2 or 3 days, it's no big deal. I'm used to going 1 day every day. I go 23, 24 hours every day. Hitting that second day is no problem. And because my body's a fat burning machine, it has all the food it needs on me. Hunger is not much of a problem at all. I feel hungry very rarely, and it's very mild. So I know I got off into another subject, but I think it's good to know that how it'll affect you with fasting. I think it's good to know how it will affect you with hunger, because all these are why keto is so much better than Atkins. And that's the main difference between a ketogenic diet and an Atkins diet. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Follow us on the social media. Just look for Fat Guy Podcast. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my favorite, Snapchat. Add me, Fat Guy Podcast. And if you want to not ever miss a single episode, and if you want to have every episode we've ever done at your fingertips, easily to search by topic, scroll up and down, download that Spreaker app, Spreaker, and share this. If you know somebody that's obese or overweight and has health issues and they desperately need to lose weight, that's who I'm here for. Share this. You could change somebody's life.